We all know what happened to the Mets in 1986, but what about the Yankees? They had a pretty good year as well. Of course, that shouldn't come as too much of a surprise because heading into the '86 season, rookie manager Lou Piniella had the American League MVP in Don Mattingly at first base, as well as all-stars Rickey Henderson and Dave Winfield in the outfield. Now that trio was enough to make anyone optimistic. But all was not totally sweet for Lou as he tried to assemble his ball club in spring training. The biggest question mark was a pitching staff that more resembled the Wheeze kids than the Whiz kids. Piniella brought the average age of his staff down a little when he sent 46-year-old Phil Niekro packing on March 28th. That left Phil's 42-year-old kid brother Joe, as well as 36-year-old Ron Guidry, Ed Whitson, and newly acquired Britt Burns as the starting staff. On March 28th, the Yankees made another important move, picking up Mike Easler for Don Baylor in a swap of designated hitters with the Red Sox. Things got worse for the Bombers before they even started the season. Britt Burns soon became Brittle Burns and was placed on the 60-day disabled list with a hip ailment. In fact, Burns' injury would put him out for the season, making the Yankees pitching staff even more tenuous. Despite their admitted pitching problems, the Yankees got out of the box quickly in 1986. On April 12th, less than a week into the season, the Yankees took sole possession of first place in the American League East with Dennis Rasmussen's first win of the season, a 7-3 triumph over the Milwaukee Brewers. And the Bombers continued to win with surprisingly good pitching. Bob Tewksbury, a rookie with an impeccable control, was particularly effective, as was Guidry, who showed none of the ill effects of being a year older. But the Yankees weren't the only team playing well. The Boston Red Sox were starting to come on as well. Behind the strong arm of fireballer Roger Clemens, who would win his first 15 decisions without a loss, the Sox continued to win. When the Yanks stumbled slightly in mid-May, the Sox seized the opportunity and moved into sole possession of first place. Little did the Yankees realize it at the time, but they would spend the rest of the year trying to catch McNamara's band. The Yankees spent the rest of May and early June taking on the Western Division. And despite compiling a respectable 11-6 mark, they found themselves 4 games behind the Red Sox as they prepared to play 27 straight games against their stiff AL East competition. Now, as anyone who follows the Yankees knows, no season is complete without a little internal strife. And in 1986, the Yankees got theirs in the form of pitcher Ed Whitson. Now, Whitson contracted a rare form of homesickness. That is, he gets sick every time he had a pitch at home. Now, Piniella decided to start him only on the road. But when the problems persisted, Whitson was banished to the bullpen and finally traded. But Whitson wasn't Piniella's only pitching problem. Ron Guidry, for so many years the ace of the staff, hit the most prolonged slump of his career. And that was bad news for the Yankees. Louisiana Lightning went 1-7 through the crucial months of May and June. And unfortunately for the Bombers, no one else fared much better. During the key 27-game East swing, the Yankees went 12-15. And although they held on to second place, they dropped to 7 games behind the division leader. The Yankees finally made up some ground on the Sox after the All-Star break as Boston struggled. The Bombers picked up 4 games in 7 days, but injuries to Ron Guidry and Tommy John and the poor performance of Bob Tewksbury, who was sent back to the minors, severely depleted the mound staff, and the Yankees were unable to move in for the kill. With the chance to make a move, the Yankees made one in the opposite direction, winning only 4 of their next 14 games as they fell to 4th place in the division on August 7th. The Yankees traveled to Kansas City on August 15th with Boston still in sight. Ahead of them was a stretch of 21 games against the supposedly weaker West Division. It would be the Bombers' last look at the West before beginning the final series of head-to-head battles with the East in September. It was a big chance for the Yankees to make a valiant charge at the division-leading Sox. But that charge never came. The Yankees dropped 7 of their first 10 games on that swing and finished 8-13 overall against Kansas City, Seattle, Oakland, and California. When the Bombers awoke on September 9th to begin the head-to-head play with the East, they were mired in 3rd place, 11 games behind the pennant-bound Red Sox. Even a final spurt of 18 wins in their last 25 games could bring the Yankees no closer than 5.5 games. Now, 1986 obviously wasn't a championship year for the Yankees, but there were several great individual performances that shouldn't be ignored. Here are just a few of them. Don Mattingly, the Yanks' outstanding first baseman, staked his claim to the title of the best player in baseball by finishing second in the MVP balloting with a .352 average, 31 homers, and 113 RBIs. It was his third straight great season. He broke club marks with 238 hits and 53 doubles, and he led the American League in hits, total bases, doubles, slugging percentage, and was tied for first in game-winning RBIs. Dave Winfield overcame a midseason slump to knock in 104 RBIs. The first Yankee to knock in more than 100 RBIs in 5 straight years since Joe DiMaggio. And there was Dave Righetti, who ended speculation once and for all that he should be in the starting rotation by establishing himself as one of the premier relievers in the major leagues. Rag set a major league mark with 45 saves and had a 2.45 ERA in more than 100 innings worked. And what about Dennis Rasmussen? The big left-hander rebounded from a mediocre year in 1985 to lead the Yankees with an 18-6 mark. Mattingly, Righetti, and Rasmussen. 3 good reasons why the Yankees may follow a good 1986 season with a great 1987. But that's a story for next year's show, so stay tuned.